Hi everybody. It was just to say we're just having a tiny technical glitch, so we're just going to give it like 2 minutes. Mary's going to be joining us, and then we'll get started. So it'll be about sort of 6:05, and then we'll get started. So thank you for your patience.
Fine, don't worry. What's wrong with it?
Right. There we go.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm really sorry. The technical hitch was my laptop, I think. However, I am here now with Jenny in the office. And thank you for joining us tonight. If you don't know me, my name's Mary Telford-Jammy. I'm the chair of the Langham Initiative, which is the organisation that owns the land, we're the community landowner of the Taras Valley Nature Reserve. So we really appreciate you tuning in, as it were, to our update tonight. And we're looking forward to talking through all the projects and actions, activities that have been going on the Nature Reserve in the last year, which, as you'll discover shortly, it's a huge amount of work that's been happening. We'll probably talk through the projects for about 45 minutes, and there'll be time for questions at the end. We still engage with our community very much, and the organisation, the Langham Initiative, has been trying to strengthen itself, both office behind the scenes with the office things. We've been trying to strengthen financial management, IT, and just other management processes so that we're sustainable for the longer term and fit for purpose. And we're also looking at moving our office space onto Langham High Street. That might happen in the next few months. Things have been a bit slow, but we're really hopeful about that. We continue to build partnerships and host visits from students and engage with colleagues around Scotland through organisations such as Community Land Scotland. And our networks are really very important to us as are our funders. So we really appreciate all the support that we get from a very wide range of partners, both locally as well as regionally and nationally. As I think I've said on previous webinars, if you've joined us before, the Taras Valley Nature Reserve is really the main focus of the work that the Langham Initiative does. And as you'll hear tonight, there are so many different projects going on. At this point, we're not preparing to take on any other projects. There's so much happening. We're still very much at the start of a long but exciting journey, and we hope that you'll continue to follow us along the way. I'll just maybe start by saying sort of housekeeping. The webinar is being recorded, and the recording will go onto the YouTube channel and will be shared afterwards for anyone who couldn't make it tonight. We'll take questions at the end, so if you put your questions into the chat box, and we'll put these to the team later on. If we don't have time to answer them, we'll respond in the FAQs afterwards and make sure that those are made available too. There might be a slight hitch or slowness with the slides. Sometimes they're coming on after people are talking, so that's just a technical thing. But I'm just now going to hand over to, I'm going to sort of do a quick introduction to the team. You'll see their faces in a minute. So we have Jenny Barlow holding a cute lamb, and Jenny is our reserve manager. Going along the top line, we have Angela, who is our development manager. Joyce is next, and she's our office manager, kingpin in the office here. Then we have William, who's our shepherd. We still have a sheep farm at the north end of the Taras Valley. Bottom left is Inigo Alcanez, and Inigo has now moved on. He was with us for about 2.5 years, but his contract came to an end, and for family reasons, he's moved back to London. Next, holding the owl is Kat Mayer, who is about to move on to another job in Lancashire, and we wish her all the best with that in the future. She's worked very hard here with volunteers and with young people in schools. Juliana is in the middle there, and Juliana is a finance person who assists with accounts and all kinds of things. She's very, very helpful with us all. Next, on the right of Juliana, is Phoebe Carter, who has come to join us as a graduate for 1 year. We have managed to secure funding for her post, and she's already a great asset to the team. She's only been with us a couple of months, but she is already fitting in very well. And on the bottom far right is Rob Mainsbridge, who has just recently joined us as a part-time ecologist. So that's the team, and you're going to hear from some of them in a minute. I think I'm handing over to Angela first of all. So thank you.
Okay, thanks for that welcome, Mary, and welcome to everybody who's on tonight's webinar. If you've been on them in the past few years that we've run these, you may find that there's sort of some similarity, but we feel that there's some really important aspects to the development of the Taras Valley Nature Reserve that we always feel it's important to remind ourselves of and to remind everybody else of. And I think the one thing that everybody would agree on is that the reserve means so many different things to so many people. For some people, it's home. Other people, it's a place of work. And for many, it's the backdrop of the common riding or even for the sort of local hound trails that are held annually. People walk, they swim, they ride through it, they cycle through it. Some come to watch the hen harriers dance. Some come to watch the black grouse lek or the barn owls hunt. So people, whether they're local or visitors, value and use the reserve for so many different reasons. And as custodians of the community-owned land, we feel it's really important that we aim to balance out these different uses while still allowing nature to thrive. Our activity falls under 4 main pillars: people, nature and climate. The reality is, though, a lot of our work does overlap with each other. And underpinning it all is sustainability. And that's not just financial, but it's also environmental, social and organisational. For us, this is very much a forever project and we're in it for the long term. So it's so important that we manage the reserve with sustainability in mind, making sure that the organisation is fit for the future to actually support all the different aspirations. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about our first pillar, people. And as you can imagine, this area covers a breadth of activity. And even under that heading, there are 4 key strands that we operate within. We feel very strongly that Langham as a town and the area around it feels the economic and social benefits and opportunities of the community owning the land. We want to expand and continue with our learning and discovery and skills building programme. We want to grow community engagement activities, getting people out on the reserve, exploring it and seeing what it has to offer. And as well, not just locally, but we want to welcome visitors onto the reserve and try and in the future create a welcome and diverse visitor experience. We're going to start off with the strand talking about the economic benefits and about sort of the creation of sustainable livelihoods. And we're going to try and outline a little bit about what we said we'd do and also what we've actually done as well. We do set ourselves some quite high aspirations. Sometimes we don't always fulfill them, which can be for a whole host of reasons. And sometimes something else may come in that comes out unexpectedly, and we just take an opportunity to progress a particular aspect. We were hoping that by the end of March 26th, that we might have Cronksback Cottage renovated as an energy efficient home for local rent. We're almost there, and certainly later in 2026, we will have achieved that aspiration. The previous financial year, 25-26, focused very much on getting funding bids sorted and all the administrative side of actually getting that project on the ground. Touch wood, we have a pre-start meeting in May, and hopefully we'll be starting on site by the end of May. And if all goes well, by August, September time, we'll be ready to welcome our first tenants into the home. So when you come to the webinar this time next year, hopefully we'll have lots of great pictures of what it looks like and of our new tenants. We talked last year about the aspiration to develop plans for the farm transition. And this is really important to us. The impact of a farm on the land, on the nature reserve is hugely important. And we spent a lot of time over the past few months working with a consultant, Caroline Grindrod from Wilderculture, who's working with us to oversee a sustainable farm transition, looking at regenerative farming and possibly the move to organic. And we're looking at what that actually means in practice on the ground, what changes it means in terms of grazing animals, how they are used on the reserve, and how ultimately how we integrate the agricultural and farming side of the operations in with the nature reserve so that it really enhances the growth of the nature reserve and the health of it as well. We also want to one of the aspects we managed to take forward last year was the potential for purchasing Broomholme Shields Cottage, and you can see that just as the middle picture on the slide there. The opportunity came up to buy that from Buccleuch at quite short notice, and as we said last year, it was so important that we took the opportunity both to provide a home, but also long term in the future, we could use it as a development opportunity as well. We were lucky to work with Buccleuch on that particular aspect, and we were able to secure some funding from the Scottish Land Fund to make that happen. The Scottish Land Fund provided about 25% of the costs, and we put in our own reserves into the purchase of that property. So it came into our hands last year, and it's now providing a regular income in terms of rent. And we feel it's a real positive move that we were able to keep the tenant here, living here, working for many local employers in the area. We've always had the aspiration as well to create more employment opportunities as and when we could. We hope one day to be in a position where we can employ apprenticeships on the reserve working alongside us, but we're probably a little way off that at the moment. But working with the Hollywood Trust, we were able to secure funding to develop a pilot graduate placement scheme. And as you'll hear from Phoebe later, she's now in place and working alongside all the staff team. And hopefully this is a really positive first year of employment after leaving university. So far, we think it's been successful. It's certainly helped us as the rest of the staff team, and we hope it's helping Phoebe. And we'd certainly like to see this continue in the future. Getting thumbs up signs there from Phoebe, so that's great. Alongside that, as Mary already mentioned, we were also able to employ an ecologist. Again, this is using our own funds, and we think this is a really positive move. In the past, we've used a consultancy, and while that's provided information that we've required, we really wanted an ecologist to be embedded in the team to be able to contribute to a wide range of projects. So it's great that Rob's joined us. He lives locally, so that's fantastic. And we're looking forward, well, we're letting him find his feet. He's only been with us 2 weeks, but you'll meet him next year on next year's webinar. And hopefully you'll be able to hear the difference it makes having a staff team with the skills. We can all learn from him. He can learn from us. So we think that's a really, really positive move. And something that's going to come up every year is the wish to invest in local businesses in services. In 25-26, we estimated, with the help of Juliana, our finance officer, just over £100,000 has been invested back in the local community. That's very much transactions that have passed through our books, but obviously there will be sort of nights spent in local hotels when people have come here to come on events or activities. So the real figure is probably much higher than that. That's a figure that will go up and down each year, depending on what projects we are undertaking. And by local businesses, we mean obviously businesses in Langham, but also Newcastleton, Hoyk, Longtown, and probably over as far as Carlisle, but within a very close travel radius to Langham. So if we move on to the benefits for visitors, we said last year that we would install our first phase of signage, and we were really pleased to get that installed, and it's made a huge difference. But we hope our aspirations don't stop there. We very much hope that we can develop future phases in terms of interpretation, and more signage around the reserve. I do apologise there. Waymarking, and as we develop more trails, we'll be able to look at installing more signage alongside that. We hope to keep on with a programme of events. That varies each year. Again, it depends on what our capacity is as a staff team. So sometimes we might only be able to run 2 or 3 events. Sometimes we're working with partners like the Hen Harrier event that we were able to work on with our Raptor group earlier on, just at the end of last year. We've still been doing a lot of development work behind the scenes in terms of planning on some capital projects, looking at glamping and bunkhouse developments. These are very time consuming and with an awful lot of background work to put into place, but we're chipping away at them all the time alongside all the other activity that we're undertaking. We hope to develop guided walks for visitors. Again, it's very much down to staff resource, but we are holding our first one of the year this year with a guided bird walk with John Holliday, one of our many volunteers who helps on the reserve. We hope that this can become a little bit more formalised and we can offer a much more sort of kind of programmed events for visitors. And of course, we continue to run our information hub that's staffed by our amazing volunteers. And Mary mentioned about a possible office move. What we hope is that will give us a much better base for visitors, much more space for people to call in, much more space for exhibitions and displays. So people can call in, they can get direct information from our volunteers, but they can also have a look at the different panels and what have you that we'll be able to put there. So we really appreciate all the work that our Information Hub volunteers undertake. That couldn't be run without them. And now I'm going to pass over to Kat to talk about some other aspects of our activities.
Sorry, I was on mute and then I clicked the wrong button, so I think we might have gone ahead a slide. There we go. Right. Hopefully that should land on the right one now. So over the last year, we've continued to do our environmental and outdoor education work with local children. So that has included all of the children from both of the local primary schools, Langham and Canonby, attending sessions on the nature reserve. So this has included both school sessions and sessions run in school holidays and weekends and things like that. And they all have a focus on learning about the land and wildlife, engaging with the community land, and also incorporating aspects of the Scottish Outdoor Access Code, looking at how to actually enjoy the community land responsibly. We want to make sure that all of the young people in the area do get this opportunity to actually engage with the land and to learn more about it, because obviously they are a major group of stakeholders in the project, but also hopefully the future custodians of the land. So in addition to working with younger children, we've also been working with young people from the academy. So working with groups in the rural skills on the rural skills course, running sessions, doing activities such as dry stone walling, and also taking part in lots of employability events such as careers fairs and things like that. Sharing information about what roles are available within the environmental industry, what sort of skills are useful, and helping to provide opportunity for young people to obtain those skills. A lot of the work done in the environmental industry does require a lot of trial and error. So we've been working closely with a lot of other organisations, hosting visits on the Taras Valley and also visiting other locations to share knowledge and ideas about the work. So this year that has included the Southern Uplands Partnership, Borders Forest Trust, Rewilding Britain, and it's really good to have the opportunity to actually share knowledge with other organisations and find out what they've done well, and they can, and likewise hopefully learn from us as well. We're also very fortunate to be able to use the Taras Valley as an outdoor classroom and allow the site to be used for both internal and external training. So in the last year, this has included riverfly survey training for the National Bug Life Survey to monitor river health all across the country, and also herbivore impact assessment training with our volunteers, which has fed into our herbivore management plan to monitor grazing pressure across the reserve. We've also worked quite closely with various higher education and higher and further education universities and colleges and things. So that has included, within the last year, that has included the 4th and 5th visit from Exeter University, who have added us into their annual Scotland field trip. So they've been coming for the past 5 years, and this year they helped us to remove a full ton bag of Sitka spruce saplings from a development site that we've been working on restoring from Sitka spruce plantation to native broadleaf woodland. So they've been helping with the development of that. It's also included the Barony College that are based in Dumfries, and their peatland course came to look at our peatland restoration work, having a look at some of the before and afters in different areas of the site, and also Bangor University's woodland course. So it really is quite varied as to what they come and look at, whether it's focused on different specific habitats or more focused on the community aspect of the work. Looking forward, hoping to look at the development of a plan for permanent learning spaces. So this might incorporate properties or just different locations around the reserve as well that can be used specifically for education. So this is the community engagement aspect. So that includes our volunteer program, and lots of the work that is done on the reserve couldn't be done without the help from our volunteers. We have an amazing group of volunteers that are really engaged with the project. Over the last year, they've put over 700 hours of work into activities on the reserve, and that's included a huge range of things: tree planting, removing Sitka spruce, clearing old pheasant fences, helping with school groups, also citizen science activities. both in the volunteer sessions, doing things like harvest mouse surveys, where we found that we actually have harvest mice populations on the reserve, monitoring adder populations, but also there are lots of people who volunteer their time and spend time doing things like moth surveys. There's the raptor group who monitor the hen harrier populations. So there is a lot of things that wouldn't be possible without the help of volunteers. We also run a variety of community events. So this year that's included a K-Leaf Community Land Week, which we've run a couple of times in the past as well. Our first hen harrier event was a couple of weekends ago, which was run with the local raptor group. And we also held a family bushcraft day over the Easter holidays to look at getting whole families involved with younger children, anyone who wanted to get involved. All of the activities are kind of aimed at getting a wider range of people involved with the project, not just focusing on one specific thing. So that's why we try to have a lot of variety, looking at different aspects of the community land, natural environment, but also just kind of getting people involved with the project anyway. We work a lot with other local community groups. So recently we participated in Creation Mill's Wool Woven and Wild Festival, having a stall and running a tour onto the reserve as part of that festival, which was really, really great a great event to be part of. And also things like working with the local raptor group, the local community forum, and just kind of all different organizations across the community. We've also been working with young people to ensure that they have a voice in the development of the reserve. As I previously mentioned, they are obviously hopefully going to be the future custodians of the reserve. So we've been making sure that there are opportunities for young people to get involved. And for the last year, we've had a young person volunteering with us really regularly, and it's been absolutely wonderful working with her and having her involved with the project. So yeah, I will hand over to Jenny to tell us a bit about the nature part of the reserve.
Thanks, Kat. So I'm just going to cover the two pillars of nature and climate. So just before I go into what we've been doing over the last 12 months, I was just going to give a quick recap on kind of what our sort of big picture aspirations are for nature on the Taras Valley. So our big aim is restoration of dynamic ecosystems across the Taras Valley. We've spent a lot of time engaging with others and visiting other sites and exploring what this means, especially with the development of our action plan. And I think for us, it's been really important. And I think, as we've been learning from lots of other places as well, that this was a whole systems view. So this includes aspirations such as regenerative grazing with herbivores, such as cattle, ponies, to encourage dynamism in the ecosystem, restoring the river system. So that includes restoring wetlands, floodplain and natural hydrology on the land, restoring native woodlands, scrub and plants to their natural limits and range, restoring our damaged peatlands, all with the aim to maximise biodiversity and really encourage that complex, abundant ecological web. And I think for us, it is really important to take that whole systems look about what needs to be repaired and regenerated, and stepping in to sort of give a helping hand to help and encourage nature to thrive. So how have we been putting all of those things into action over the last 12 months? It's quite a nice time of year to just sort of look back on what we said last year and then actually look at what we've achieved in that year. So one of the things that we said last year that we would do is to continue to clear, regenerate and sitka spruce from our moorland areas. We have commercial forestry bounding us in a few directions, and we do, that is going to be an ongoing maintenance issue. And I think it was something that's been a big continuing theme in community feedback, that it was really important that's cleared. And I suppose it does create quite a threat to the whole ecosystem if that's left unchecked. So this year, we using local contractors, we have cleared 381 hectares in January and February, cutting the sicker spruce bark and helping to clear it. And for the first time since I'd started in this job, it actually feels like we're starting to get on top of the problem. And we've also been helped, with a lot of volunteer effort alongside that contractor support. So we're really, I think for that sort of two-pronged effort, it's been really good to try and get on top of it. And it does feel like we're getting there now slowly. And we've also been working in a sort of a really good sort of partnership, all hands on deck, on our 36-hectare woodland restoration site. So you can see it in the sort of the two photos on the right-hand side. So after we created ponds and created new paths after the site was felled, it was a really dark Sitka spruce plantation beforehand. And we've almost sort of started with our sort of second phase of restoration once all of that groundwork went in and the paths and the ponds. So Kat and the volunteers, with the help of funding from Rotary and lots of other organisations, we've been planting wetland plants, doing wildflower seeding, getting native trees in the site. And it really is starting to take shape. We've got kingfishers in the ponds now, dippers, otters. So it's quite amazing to see the transformation in such a short time. And I think it's been a real team effort to get here with that site. And it just shows how amazing it can be to watch nature just recover with a little help in hand. We've also been, last year we said we'd continue our tree growing partnership with Dumfries Prison. So that's been something that we've been really keen to continue with. We've been working with the prison wellbeing team. They have grown us 1,000 Scots pine in the prison wellbeing nurseries, and they were delivered to us, I think, 2 weeks ago, ready to go onto site this autumn and winter. So that's really nice that we can have those sort of satellite growing partnerships with other places across the region. And one big milestone last year, we said we'd be seeking funding for river restoration, feasibility study and survey work. And that has been something that we have achieved. So we now have secured the funding for 11 months of development work to work with some incredible partners, Galloway Fisheries Trust, Tweed Forum, Scottish Wildlife Trust, to look at a whole system kind of restoration of the river channel where it's been straightened, but also looking at how we can bring in more connective riparian woodland habitat as well. So it's really nice that we've got all of that sort of expertise from across Scotland to help us do that. We've got our launch event of that next week. So that's really exciting and a good milestone, I think, achieved this year. We've also been carrying on with our herbivore impact assessment and training and herbivore management work too. And we've also been continuing work on our whole reserve grazing plan. So Ange talked a little bit about that earlier. So we've been doing farm visits and really scoping a kind of what options we've got for transitioning our sort of quite traditional sheep system into something more regenerative. And we've also been working with local graziers, Faith and David, to trial grazing with Lakeland fell ponies and Highland cattle, which has been really amazing for us to just sort of see what resources are involved, how that works, how we can actually trial rotational grazing and building in rest periods into the land. So I think that's been incredibly helpful for us as we've started to scope what the options look like for the reserve and what the grazing might look like in the future. So that's been really great. So just coming up for the coming year. So now we have Rob on board, our ecologist. One of the things we're really looking forward to doing is developing a monitoring framework for the reserve, so that we have a lot of data. Some of it's really strong and some of it's quite fragmented. So I think what we wanted to do is bring together that kind of holistic framework to start to look at how we monitor and how we can monitor progress and the impact of all our work over time. So we're getting there, but I think with that additional resource within the staff team, that's going to be something that's going to be really, really beneficial over the coming year. We're also going to be undertaking survey and detailed design. So we hope that will be completed by this time next year for river restoration, starting to look at options like remeandering, wetland creation, floodplain reconnection. So that's a really exciting one, and we hope that will make a really big difference. We are also looking at, we're working with Tweed Forum as part of that river restoration project to identify key areas in sections of the catchment where we don't actually have any riverside woodland, where it's been really disconnected and fragmented, and we just have sort of very small fragments of ancient woodland left. We're starting to look at how we can create that through the catchment. And as we're a designated site, we are looking at having a lot of input from Nature Scott, RSPB, organisations like that as part of that work, so that it can be a really collaborative effort to look at how we can bring that kind of very important habitat into a designated site like ours. So it's going to be a really exciting project. And we will also be continuing with our herbivore impact assessment survey across the reserve and herbivore management activity. So that includes a 20% reduction in 20% reduction in our population of feral goats on the reserve. So we started a cull last year, and it'll be doing the final sort of 20% number on that this coming autumn. And we've also been doing some deer management in sections of our woodlands just to help support regeneration. And I suppose the main sort of aim of that herbivore management activity is not to eliminate any of those grazing animals, but it's just to get those numbers down to more sustainable levels, so that we can have all the benefits of those grazing animals, but have it in balance with the land, so that we're also getting regeneration too. So next on to climate. So just as a bit of a recap on our big sort of picture aspiration for that, we'd like to, I suppose our big aim is that we make a meaningful contribution to the climate and ecological emergencies with the work that we're doing. So a big element of that is that we're restoring nature at scale to enhance our natural resilience to more extreme weather as the climate changes, whether that's the wetter summers, drier springs, that restoring those natural processes on the land, we hope will make it more resilient to knocks and shocks as the climate changes. One thing that's really important as well is that we can contribute to local energy and food security, and also reducing our own environmental impact. So what does that look like in practice? The big thing that we've been working on over the past year, which we said we would do last year, is working up and continuing our peatland and hydrology restoration. So thanks to the Crichton Carbon Centre, who are a really incredible partner to work with, we now have a comprehensive multi-year restoration plan for our peatlands. So there's a little map there just to the right hand side, just shows the extent of what we're working on. So this is kind of like the core section of the middle of the valley, really. So that is all the artificial drainage that runs all the way across our peatlands. It is quite extensive, and once you actually see it like that, it really does make you realise how modified the hydrology is. So it's a very, very essential bit of restoration work to help reset some of that, and we think we can make a really big difference with some of that. So our phase 2 peatland works are now being phase 2 and 3. So you can see them on the map there, covering 472 hectares of land and 135 kilometres of artificial peat drains, which is quite impressive amount of drainage actually. So we're going to be looking at blocking those. So the restoration plans are being done at the moment for those areas, so Coombs Fell End and the Haunches. And then in the last year, we've also been working really hard with quite a lot of challenges over the last couple of years to develop up a 38-hectare sort of low density native woodland scheme on Pertaburn. So we're really happy that working alongside the Woodland Trust and lots of other partners, we've now finished the design for that. We've had a lot of help, a lot of advice from lots of different agencies to get to the design point of this. So we're finally ready to apply for funding for that soon, which is really exciting. We also said last year we'd be reviewing options for community growing across the reserve. That's been on hold. I think we really felt like the focus should be on the current sort of grazing transition for the farm first, and then we can look at how we embed those kind of community growing opportunities through the reserve once we know kind of how we'll need to use the land with the grazing animals and how that rotational grazing might work. And we've also started to review our own operational impact, but that does need a lot more work. So just looking at the year ahead, the main thing that we're hoping to have done in 26-27 is that we will have finalised our restoration designs for all those ditch blocking works that we're hoping to do, and we'll have the funding secured to deliver our phases 2 and 3 of our peat restoration. So we're going to be applying to peatland action for that work in, I think it's September or August this year. And if we're successful with that, we'll be delivering that work between 27 and 29. So that'll make a really big difference on the reserve in terms of habitat improvement and that resilience to climate change as well. As part of that project, we're also really excited that the Crichton Carbon Centre and Nature Scott were really keen to host a contractor training event for our peat restoration work as part of our peat restoration works on Tarras Valley. So if that all goes ahead, that'll be a contractor training day where people who are digger trained but don't know how to do peat restoration will get the chance to sort of practically train in how you do peat restoration and those kind of practical restoration techniques. So it's lovely that as part of that restoration, we're also helping to upskill local contractors at the same time. And we hope that we will also have delivered our low density riparian native woodland project at Pertaburn. There's the plans just to the right hand side. You can see the picture there in the background. We've got fragmented bits of ancient alder woodland, and hopefully we'll start to connect all that back up with that project. We have black grouse in that area, so hopefully all of those kind of that young sort of scattered native woodland will really help species like that on the reserve. And we're also hoping to develop a plan for a community orchard network across the reserve in the next year. And I'll hand on to Ange for sustainability.
Also on mute. As I mentioned when I first started, the pillar of sustainability underpins all aspects of our work. We are in it for the long haul. We've already said this is a forever project, so making sure that we're resilient at a whole host of levels to make sure that we can actually take forward running the land for the future. So we are looking at financial resilience. How can we develop income streams? How do we manage our finances effectively and make sure we've got the right admin support? How do we look after our land and buildings, ultimately the community assets? And we need to take that responsibility very seriously. So we'll just talk in a little bit more detail as to what we have been doing. I think I've already mentioned that we're working on plans for glamping units and conversion of Cranksbank Farmhouse into a sort of small-scale bunkhouse and associated activity. This is still ongoing. We've been doing work on planning, and hopefully in the next year or so we'll get to the point where, after consultation, that we'll be able to go out for planning. We keep on top of all the maintenance on land and property, be that upgrading the march fencing, keeping on top of tracks, keeping on top of private water supplies. I think water supplies are probably the bane of our lives sometimes. It's hugely important, but very, very time consuming. We also want to make sure that we've got a good, strong base of supporters to actually keep on top of us, make sure that we are fulfilling all the aspirations that we set down in our action plan, and sort of keeping in touch with them through social media, newsletters, and such like. And the governance of the organisation is crucial. We've got a group of 8 local residents who are trustees of the Langham Initiative, and we always looking for sort of new members who might want to come on board. And it's a big undertaking. They really carry a lot of responsibility. And I think all the staff team would agree we've got an amazing set of trustees who help guide us and are there to support us. It's not a passive group. They're really actively involved. And the organisation wouldn't be here without them. And one of the key aspects that we said we wanted to do last year was investigate alternative options for the office space. Those of us who've ever been in our office might realise it's a little bit less than perfect. So we've been on the lookout for somewhere that would put us on the high street, make us much more accessible, but also provide us with a dry and warm office. And we're looking forward to a possible office move sometime this financial year, 26-27. Other targets for this year, we already mentioned about getting Cronksbank Cottage refurbished. One of the aspects of our sort of commercialisation is making sure that the area around Cronksbank Farmhouse can actually provide us with a reliable water supply. So we've started off, we were lucky enough to secure funding for this. And I think what we've really enjoyed about this aspect is that we spent a day out with a water diviner with a very technical twig in hand. But at the end of May, early June, at the other end of the spectrum, we'll be having a very sophisticated drilling rig coming out and drilling down where the diviner has indicated our best water supplies. Very fortunate, it's very close to the farmhouse, so things like getting electricity supply to it and what have you shouldn't be too difficult. So that's just one aspect, a tiny little aspect of actually getting some of the commercialisation of our properties in hand. We'll continue to invest in land and properties, and we'll still be doing more work behind the scenes in terms of research and planning to get these schemes up and running. And now I'm going to pass over to Phoebe so she can introduce herself to you and tell us a little bit about sharing our story.
Hi, everyone's already mentioned, but I'm doing the graduate placement, so I'm just gonna do these last few slides, even though it's a lot of the stuff I wasn't here for. So alongside the amazing work of the team, a big part of the project is how we share the word and spread the word and keep people interested and up to date with all the projects going on. So we do lots of things like keeping our social medias up to date regularly. They're the best places that you can follow along with everything that we're doing, all the events that we're holding, they all get posted there. So if you're wanting to look for us, have a look at our social medias. But we also have done national and international, like traditional media, TV, radio, newsletters, things like that. And you might have heard Jenny did a podcast called the Out of Doors podcast, talking about our harvest mice surveys and the discovery of the new species on our reserve, which was very good. And we also use different monitoring systems. So we've got Nest Box cameras, one of which is live on our YouTube, so you can check on there. And we use drone footage and fixed point photography to track changes across the reserve. And a lot of these things have been covered, but sometimes it's nice to just look at the numbers all together and see the amazing impact that the team has had. So we've hosted 16 different visits, including from groups such as Community Land Scotland, a couple of different universities, Scottish Land Commission, Southern Upland Partnership, and many more. We took part in 5 media requests, the Outdoors podcast, as I mentioned before, other national media and regional TV. We've held 44 volunteer sessions completing different practical tasks on the reserve, from tree planting to bulb planting and different surveys, including the Harvest Mice surveys. We've held 25 nature and outdoor classroom sessions with the local schools, contributed to 12 external events, including conferences and good practice visits. We hosted 7 training courses, including the peatland restoration and protected species course, the riverfly aquatic survey training with bug life, and we had the Muffet Mountain Rescue team come and do a training exercise on the reserve as well. As I think Anne said earlier, the £100,000 been put back into the local economy using local contractors and businesses. It's been recorded that there's 13 of the 26 Scottish species of dragonfly at the new Lower Terrace pond site that Jenny was talking about earlier. And over 302 moth species were captured in the moth trapping survey by one of our volunteers, which is 23% of the possible species that we could have in Scotland. And the 2 new jobs have been created for the graduate placement, myself and our ecologist Rob.
You, Phoebe, we've certainly put you in the spotlight, and you haven't been with us for very long. I just want to say thank you very much, all of you, for contributing to this webinar. I think everybody listening in or watching in will realise what an enthusiastic staff team we have. It's absolutely fantastic, and how much we value our volunteers, our partners, and of course our funders. We really couldn't continue to do the work that we do without everyone, and we're really happy, that the community continues to support us in what we're doing. It's really important that we work with schools to benefit what they're trying to do, as well as other young people in the community. So really, I think at this point, I'm just going to ask people to post up questions, and I think Kat will read them out, and I'm going to sort of point in the right direction for somebody to answer the questions. But thank you, everyone, for listening tonight, and I hope it's given you a flavour of what we're doing. If you're in the area and you're not in the area, come and visit us, and hopefully one of us can maybe take you out. Some of the board members are willing to take people out, as well as the staff, who are, as you can see, very busy. So any questions, Kat?
No, there doesn't seem to be any questions in the chat at the moment. So
okay. Well, we're happy to try and answer any questions at all that you have for us. Hopefully we've given you a good overview of everything, and as Anne said, we're really excited that we are creating employment too, and as well as putting £100,000 into local businesses. I spoke to one of the hotel owners in the town, and he believes that he could attribute 17 bed nights to visitors that have come here for to see the Taras Valley. So that's fantastic, and that's just one of the hotels here. So there are other, there must be spin-off benefits for cafes and other places too. So I think, it is, we really do hope that people in small businesses here can see the benefit that we're bringing to them as well.
Someone has just put in the Q&A, how are the finances doing?
The finances are doing pretty well. We had our AGM last night, and Barbara, who's our vice chair, talked through our finances. I think we made a profit of 32,000 in the previous financial year. We're just finalising our accounts for this year. We've got money invested. We've set aside £100,000 in reserves for any unexpected things happening. We've also set aside money to develop our properties, but we will post up on our website, on the Langholm Initiative website, our accounts as soon as they're ready for that. Our auditor, we have to be audited because we, have property and land over a certain amount of income. And we had a clean bill of health this year from the auditor, which we were very pleased about. So things are going pretty well. And as I say, we're very thankful to funders such as the Hollywood Trust, a Dumfriesshire-based funder, for supporting us in terms of being able to bring a graduate here to help us with the work and to benefit her too. So I think the answer, hopefully, the finances we're really on top of them now. I think we've got systems in place to set budgets, and the budgets are just being prepared for this coming financial year. And the board regularly monitors those budgets against the spend against the budgets. So we have got systems in place now, and we're very thankful to a consultant who's assisted us with that, and Juliana, who's our finance officer. We really are happy with the way things are going. Yeah. Do you want to read that question, Kat? Yeah, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. We enjoyed a hot, dry fortnight holiday in southwest Scotland last summer, but we wonder how the peat fared in the dry heat.
I'm going to ask Jenny to answer that one.
I was going to say I think we definitely I remember all of the last year was so dry, like spring and summer last year we hardly had any rain, and I think what was really noticeable is the areas where we'd started to do our ditch blocking in March last year fared a lot better when we'd started to try and restore the natural water table in some of those areas. In the areas that have all the drainage on the reserve and have been sort of modified, over the last sort of 50 to 100 years, they're the areas which were incredibly dry, cracked, and they're starting to erode very quickly. So I think that's one of the reasons why we prioritised the ditch blocking over anything else, because it's so vulnerable to climate change. And I think when we've been having our survey done, some of it is eroding away quicker than it can be surveyed. So it does just show the pressure that really fragile ecosystem is under when we're getting the warmer springs. And then you've got that really altered hydrology on the land. So hopefully, if we do get spring, drier springs, drier summers, the more we can do to reset that water table, it'll help it. I think it still puts it under pressure, but it certainly helps it.
But you've also been doing work with the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service to look at fire risks and how we would manage those. Jenny, do you want to say?
So we've got a incident response plan now with Scottish Fire and Rescue, and we have also been doing a lot in terms of like how we're managing the land and how that risk can be reduced when we do have really dry spells of weather. So that's things like how we can do the rotational grazing with the cattle, re-wetting the land, sort of visitor engagement, and then also just being prepared for an incident if it does happen.
Yeah.
And there's also an awful lot of other sites that were sort of preparing for this kind of thing. So we were up at Abernethy and the Cairngorms. Wildfire's a really big issue up there. So we've been learning from a lot of different partners as well, and just in terms of how they're preparing and trying to make their sites more resilient. So a long way to go, but I think we're really starting to, understand that is, that's such a priority.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and because we have tenants living on the reserve as well, they are our eyes and ears on we have these people there who would alert us if anything occurred. But it's been pretty wet this spring.
Yeah, very different year to last year.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not,
bang on time.
Just thank you very much for joining us tonight, and thanks again to the staff for preparing the presentation. As I say, we had the EGM last night, and we gave the people who came along a presentation too. We've got a board meeting in the morning, so we are pretty busy in some weeks. Well, I certainly am. Fortunately, I live very close to the office. So anyway, so thank you everyone, and thanks again. Okay, good night. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks.